بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. So nice to be in your midst today. These last 10 days of Ramadan are coming upon us. 15 days have passed and we've moved into the second half of Ramadan. To begin with, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us a better second half than the first half, inshallah. And may Allah make this Ramadan the best Ramadan that we've had so far during the course of our life. You see, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do huge amounts of worship normally as well. So in Ramadan, how would you tell that he's doing anything different or more? Because the Prophet ﷺ, his whole life was about worship. Only he had the barakah that he could do worship and take care of all of his daily needs, despite the fact that today we are very active individuals running from one job to the next, one activity to the next, worldly activities, without actually having any time for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we talk about busyness in our lives, that busyness, no part of the deen necessarily features in that busyness. In fact, what happens is that busyness encroaches on the deen. So we're so busy that we can't actually worship. We just about manage to pray sometimes, if we're lucky. That's kind of our nature. Now with the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do a lot of worship. So what was different about let me move this out of the way a bit. What was different then about the worship of the Prophet ﷺ during Ramadan? What was different then? That's what we're going to look at. There are three things that the Prophet ﷺ would increase during the month of Ramadan. So number one is obviously the worship, the ibadah itself. He would do this much more in Ramadan than at other times. Number two, the hadith of Shama'il Tirmidhi mentions that the Prophet ﷺ was way more generous in Ramadan than he ever was at other times. Especially when Jibreel alayhi salam used to come. You know, because in Ramadan the Prophet ﷺ used to revise and review all the portions of the Quran that had been revealed until then. So every year it would be a different amount. The last year he did it twice. Right? So when Jibreel alayhi salam would come, he would be even more generous. And you can understand that, you know, when you're very excited about something and you've got good guests or something like that, a person just feels a bit more generous. And number three, lots of crying in his du'as and intimate conversation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was a very important feature. You have to connect to Allah. This is the time to connect to Allah. It can't just be mere outward expression of devotion. You have to get to the depths of it. That's what's going to make the difference, to really connect during the month of Ramadan. The one who connects during the month, anytime really, but Ramadan gives us a good excuse to do that. Those who connect in the month of Ramadan, their worship is multiplied and expanded and enhanced many fold. So let's just say that you're doing dua, or you've just done taraweeh, or whatever the case is, you just read some Quran, but you didn't connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it. You get reward for it. But in terms of the potency of it and what it does for our heart, the Iman that it elevates, it won't be the same as if you had your heart in it. It makes a massive difference to really think about what you're doing and be in the mode. That's what's very important. So Ramadan, the idea is that, look, for a lot of people it's going to seem like a bit of an inconvenience. You know, I can't eat, so I can't have my coffee. I feel drowsy. I'm not productive. To be honest, I mean, even philosophers of some of the Hellenistic philosophers, they would actually get people to fast when there were exams, because it just gave you a clearer mind rather than stuffing your stuff with all the junk food that we eat, especially, right? Of course, it needs a mind. It needs that this is beneficial for me, and that will help, because an empty stomach has numerous benefits. Or a non-filled stomach has numerous benefits. This month is a month of inconvenience, in the sense that we want to inconvenience ourselves, we want to destabilize ourselves, because that's how you can have a fresh beginning. That's how you can make changes. If it's the same routine, it's very difficult to change, but once you've destabilized your routine, then it's easier to get into a better routine after the month of Ramadan. That's what I see as the purpose. So let us put our bodies and our soul, not just our bodies are going through a rough time, right? But our souls as well, our hearts, through a grueling journey during this month. Training, tire them out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I mean, shouldn't there be times in our life when we tire our bodies out for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, isn't that something that we should do for our faith, that we actually exert ourselves just like we do for medical school? I mean, the amount of hours that doctors have to put in, it's crazy. But you know that there's a reason you're doing it, which is, mashallah, a degree, a qualification, a position, hopefully a decent salary, unless you're working for the NHS, right? The NHS is a blessing, subhanallah. I mean, if you've lived in countries where there is no NHS, then you'll understand. There needs to be a time in our life during the course of the year when we tire our eyes out by keeping them awake. And if we do that, then inshallah we will be honored with the beatific vision of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You want something, you have to work for it. That's the law of the world. And when it comes to the deen, it's the same thing. Inshallah, if our eyes are awake to, in these nights of Ramadan, we don't have very long nights anyway, but in the nights that we do have, if our eyes are awake, then inshallah, they will have a sweet sleep in the grave. No torment, no torture. Just full enjoyment, inshallah. See, even for businessmen, there are certain times of the year, certain seasons, when they know there's going to be a big sale. I mean, in this country, it's Christmas and other times like this, right? So what do they do beforehand? They plan for it. They get in more staff. They bring in more staff. They have more products. They have they have certain items that they sell for a certain price to get people in. There's a strategy that they use. Extra supplies. They sleep less during those days because it's longer working hours, and then restocking and everything. They actually sleep less. Ask those who go to conferences and other exhibitions and other places like that, you're going to sleep much less during that time. Their routine, their eating routine is all messed up as well. I mean, a lot of them are just maybe managing to find a bit of a time for a snack, you know, in the midst of all of the business, because for them it's the money. They need to have customer service. They need to serve the customers. They want to rake in as much profit as possible. They know they can rest later, because if they work hard during the season of 2 weeks or whatever it is, they know after that, mashallah, they can be laughing all the way to the bank. And for the rest of the year, it's fine. And the same kind of thing for us, subhanAllah. If you think of Ramadan that way, this is the time to profit. This is the season. Let me just work hard as much as possible. And then khalas, after that, I'm laughing, inshallah, to the grave. To Jannah, in fact. So now let's move into the last 10 days, Laylatul Qadr. In view of all of this that we just spoke about, Laylatul Qadr is the time to even intensify. These are the major sales now. These are the run-up. And subhanAllah, this is when the Prophet ﷺ used to himself increase his worship, and the term that's used in the hadith is shadd al-mi'zar. He used to tie his lower garment very tightly. Could mean a number of different things. No time for other things now. It is time purely just to be madly in love and enter into this kind of spiritual washing system of the last 10 days. Going to this grueling journey and inshallah end up as purified as possible. One of the greatest things about Ramadan that makes the last 10 days so great, in fact makes the whole Ramadan so great, is Shahru Ramadan alladhi unzila fihi al-Quran. Ramadan is the night in is the month in which the Quran was revealed. Number one. Number two, there's an entire surah in the Quran dedicated to one night, Laylatul Qadr, Suratul Qadr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. Allah says, we reveal the Quran in this night of Qadr, right, to the first heavens, and from there it came over 23 years to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you know what Laylatul Qadr is? So the question is, this thing is an expression of showing astonishment, greatness. Do you know what Laylatul Qadr is? Do you know what we've just done for you? Laylatul Qadr is superior to 1,000 months. It's kind of very interesting here that generally in Arabic they use 70s and 700s, the sevens, multiplications, but here it's 1,000, multiplication of 10. Right? But it's khayrun, it's superior to 1,000 months. 1,000 months is huge. How many years is that? 1,000 months is what, 93 years or something? Is it 83? 83 years. I mean, that's kind of our life, if you're lucky, right? That's kind of the life, if you're lucky. 83 years is a good, decent life. But it's more than that. So Allah left it open. It's khayrun. It's superior to. Now, why would He leave it open like that? 1,000 is a lot. But no, with Allah, things are generally without number, because He's got too much to give. He's not restrictive in what He does and what He gives. So khayrun then, this night can prove to be superior to 1,000 months, way more than 1,000 months, up to the level of your ambition, your goal, your intention, and what you think you can get with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much do you think Allah can give you? How much do you think you can do to earn Allah's mercy? How much? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ana inda dhanni abdi bi. I am with my servant as he thinks of me. So the last 10 days, out of which the one night is Laylatul Qadr, depending on how much you want from Allah, how much you think you can get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is how much better than 1,000 months it will be. So it could be so many more. It's up to you. That's why Allah allows it for different people at different stages and different, depending on their level of connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the beauty of this religion. The spirituality is relative to your condition. And there's no ending to the spirituality because Allah is infinite. So you can always get more. That's why nobody can ever think, I'm done. This is my level. I can't go beyond this. That's a lie. There's way more. You can't limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What happens during this night, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? Laylatul Qadri khayrun min alfi shahr. Tanazzalul malaikatu wal ruh fiha bi'idhni rabbihim min kulli amrin salam. Or salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. So a number of things are happening here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes. Number one, there are angels that are going to descend in this night. Angels descend on many nights, but when an abundance of angels descend, especially angels of mercy and forgiveness and so on, then that means it's a good time. It's a special season, it's a celebration. So the angels of mercy, they descend in this night, including the ruh, including Jibreel alayhi salam. When Jibreel comes for something, alayhi salam, it's special. Because remember, he came for very specific things, special missions with the prophets generally. So when he comes, or with special punishment. So when he's coming along with the other angels, that means there's something really good that's happening in the world at that time. Ibn Kathir, rahimahullah, he explains on this verse that the angels descend during this night because of the abundance of its blessing. This night comes with a lot of blessing. So with the blessing and mercy that's descending from the heavens, the angels come down with it. Just as they come when the Quran is being recited. Remember, when the Quran is being recited, it mentions that the angels, they gather around this gathering because they like good things. Then there is salam and peace until dawn. Salamun hiya hatta matla'il fajr. There is peace until dawn, meaning there is extra abundant amount of peace during this night. According to Ibn al-Jawzi, salam here refers to, it could refer, there's a difference opinion as to what exactly salam refers to here. Peace. We're translating as peace, but salam, what does it refer to? According to Ibn al-Jawzi, he says that there can't be any sickness during this night. No sickness, no fresh sickness descends during this night. Because generally it's mentioned that, you know, when you've got open vessels at night with food, cover them. Because generally sicknesses descend at night. Maybe that's something nice for doctors to know. I mean, I know this is a spiritual aspect, right? You'd have to look at it through empiricism to see, I don't know how you would do that, to see if there's some bacteria that's descending or something like that. But this is a spiritual aspect that generally diseases descend during the night. So during this night, there's nothing like that. It's peace. It's safety. No shaitan has any influence during this time. Others say that salam here means khair and barakah, goodness, virtue, and blessing. You see, because this night is superior to 1,000 nights, if we do some worship during that night, then that's better than 1,000 nights. Right? That one worship will be superior to 1,000 nights. One idea is, for the last 10 nights, because remember, Laylatul Qadr, its greatest likelihood is on the 27th. But it could be on any of the odd nights. In fact, some have even observed it in one of the even nights. Alhamdulillah, this year I think much of the world is doing Ramadan on the same day, right? Meaning our dates are quite linked. Because it does add to this question that when in South Africa or in Saudi or in Australia or other places, or Turkey for that matter, you know, you've got different names. So when is Laylatul Qadr? It's in an odd night one place, it has to be an even night in the other place, if there's one universal Laylatul Qadr, and I would assume there is. Because it's Laylatul Qadr, it's going to be a special night, it's not going to be location-wise, it's for the world, it's for the entire world. Right? That's why maybe people have observed it in even nights. In fact, some have even observed it before the 10 days. Now, that means if you really want to get it, you're going to have to stay up every single night. Now, that's not what necessarily what Allah wants us to do. Because you have to work. Allah has built us in a way that nights are for sleeping. Right? Nights are for sleeping. So it's in abnormal circumstances or in unique circumstances that we will change that routine for a particular reason. Now, if you're going to do it for 30 days, that's very humanly difficult to do that. So at least for every night of Ramadan, we are fasting, we are making Isha, we are making Fajr, and we are doing Taraweeh. So inshallah, at least if it happens, it's very less likelihood, but if it happens, alhamdulillah, we get that benefit. In the last 10 days though, the Prophet ﷺ would go into i'tikaf. Because now he knows that it's most likely in these last 10 days. So I want to be in the masjid. So even when I'm sleeping in the masjid, in a state of i'tikaf, I'm being rewarded. It's a worship. So I'm going to get part of this. I'm not going to come back with nothing. I need to get that jackpot. So every night we're doing Taraweeh anyway in the last 10 days. The odd nights then are the greater, have the greatest likelihood of having the Laylatul Qadr. So now what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us is that we worship on every alternate night, the odd nights. We do extra during that night. And the next night, we have rest. This is the beauty of our Sharia, that He's not given us an entire 10 nights at Qalas, you know, you must just worship during this night. Of course, those who want to dedicate themselves into i'tikaf, Bismillah. They can sleep in the daytime. But normal people who are not going to be doing i'tikaf, who have to work, go to their shifts and so on, you're going to have to one night on, one night off. It doesn't have to be the entire night unless you want to do that. At least some part of the night. Of course, the more you do, the greater the likelihood and the more you get. give you a simple example. If you just take set 10 pounds aside, I mean, you can do much more than that. But if you just set 10 pounds aside, or let's just say 100 pounds, right? Let's say 10 pounds. And every night during Maghrib, after Maghrib or Isha, you donate a pound in those last 10 days. One of those nights is going to be Laylatul Qadr. So your pound is going to be worth more than, I don't even know the number, but you know what I mean. Just 1 pound. These are just different examples, different ideas of what we can do. If that pound is worth so much, imagine 100 pounds, imagine 10 pounds. Imagine the other worship that we do. The Prophet ﷺ said about the Laylatul Qadr, right? So now we don't know when Laylatul Qadr is, right? So the way we're approaching this is that we're going to try to do a bit extra in all the odd nights. Right? In all the odd nights, we're going to do a bit extra. But on the 27th, we're going to give it our full. Because that has the greatest. So we're going to go according to likelihood. According to the possibility. So on every night, especially the odd nights, I mean, every night we're going to do something, but the odd nights, we're going to do special tahajjud. Extra long tahajjud. We're going to do a bit more Quran reading. More than the even nights. We're going to use the even nights to get a bit more sleep. Because you're going to have to go to work. We're not talking about people who are in i'tikaf yet. I mean, that's a whole other category, mashallah. Right? Then what we're going to do is on the 27th, we're just going to give it our fullest. And to be honest, in this country, if somebody cannot wake up the entire night of the 27th, then that's really miserable. Because right now, there's only about 3-4 hours of nights, which is not much at all. You split it into 3 sections. In one, you stand for prayer, the last part, the tahajjud part. Right? In the other one, you recite Quran and Tilawah. And in the other one, you do adhkar, dhikr, du'as. Those are the 3 sections that that's what is the most beneficial thing you can do. Stand in prayer, adhkar, remembrances and du'as, and tilawah of the Quran. Those are the 3 things. And of course, there's so many other things that you can do. The Prophet ﷺ said, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu reports, Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim hadith, Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama min dhanbi. Whoever fasts the month of Ramadan with iman and ihtisab, all of their previous sins are forgiven. Referring to the minor sins here. But if you add tawbah to that, and repentance and remorse, then your major sins are forgiven as well. That's for fasting during the month of Ramadan. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, Iman and ihtisab, I'll explain that a bit later to you. وَمَنْ قام ليلة القدر إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. Whoever stands during the Laylatul Qadr with Iman and ihtisab, all of their previous sins are forgiven. What does it mean, Iman? With Iman? Well, with Iman means that you do it with belief in Allah, with conviction in Allah, that I'm doing this for the sake of Allah. This isn't being done for any other reason. And you believe that Allah will reward you for this. You believe that Allah is going to reward you for this. That's the Iman. Muhtasiban, ihtisab. Ihtisab means to anticipate something, to seek something. So you're doing it because of your faith. But what you want from it, right? You're doing it because of the demand of your faith for the sake of Allah. But what you want from it is Allah's pleasure. Muhtasiban. What do you want from it? One of the things is that you want from it Allah's pleasure. You're doing it with Iman. I'm not doing it for ostentation that people call me righteous and pious, that I stand so long at night. It's done purely for the sake of Allah. And the ihtisab, I want purely Allah's happiness and satisfaction, and no other reason. I don't want to satisfy anybody else. This is purely for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake. So nothing that betrays the ikhlas, nothing that violates the sincerity, purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Aisha radiallahu anha asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, if I see Laylatul Qadr, right, if I witness it, what should I say? So the Prophet ﷺ said, if you see Laylatul Qadr, hadith of Ibn Majah and Tirmidhi, say, Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Just filled with forgiveness. Oh Allah, you are the forgiving one. Afu. You are the compassionately forgiving one. You invoke the right name. Tuhibbul afwa. And then you're telling Allah, you love to forgive. You are the forgiving one, the oft forgiving, compassionate one, and you love to forgive. So forgive me. That's the way to speak to Allah. One of the things that is indicated in this narration, Aisha radiallahu anha is saying, if I see Laylatul Qadr, that means there are signs for Laylatul Qadr aside from just fixing the night that is 27th. Right? Otherwise she would have said, on the 27th night, what should I do? Most of us have pretty much just restricted it on the 27th night. Right? But this proves that it could be on any night. As the Prophet ﷺ said, فَالْتَمِسُوهَا. He said, seek it in the odd nights. But 27th has the greatest possibility. The other thing it indicates is that there are signs for this night. I'm not going to go into that, but ulama have witnessed different things. Now, we're not going to go and look for those things, because if you don't find it, you're going to be dejected. Because what the ulama mentioned is that these signs are not necessarily opened and revealed to everybody. These are from the matters of unveilings, where Allah just opens it up to certain servants of His. So for example, it's mentioned that it's a very calm night. When the sun rises on that particular morning, after that night, it rises without any sharp rays. One of the scholars has mentioned, one of the awliya has mentioned that he tasted the water of the ocean during this night, and he found it to be sweet. Now you go and you try that, go to the South End or wherever it is, and if you don't find it sweet on any one of those nights, you're going to be upset. These are not things that are from the hadith mentioned that you will definitely find these things. These are matters of unveiling that Allah opens to different people. He may open up something, you may see a dream on that night, if you took a little nap. Something else, it may be just a very calm night. I mean, this has been felt, some calmness during that night. There's just a level of serenity and tranquility with the angels descending. But you have to be in touch with these realities to be able to make more sense of them. I'm not talking about some kind of major arcane issue. It's just that, a person has to be in touch to get the best out of these things. So our focus is just to try to play with the odds as such, unfortunately, to invoke that terminology, right? It's the last 10 nights, out of which the odd nights are the most important, out of which the 27th, we're just going to give it our full. And hopefully, that's why a person in i'tikaf, he is generally going to have it, right? That's a person who sits outside the Apple store for the whole night. He's going to get that iPhone. Not the guy who tries to go in the morning when it's all over and done with, right? That's basically what it is. So now, Imam Nawawi mentions, rahimahullah, that in this night, in these nights, these odd nights as I mentioned, يستحب أن يكثر فيها من الدعوات بمهمات المسلمين. Imam Nawawi mentioned this. Don't forget the major issues affecting the Muslim Ummah today. That it is mustahab and preferable during this night, desirable, that a person abundantly does du'as for the important affairs of the believers. فَهَذَا شِعَارُ الصَّالِحِينَ. Because this is the salient feature of the righteous people. وَعِبَادُ الْعَارِفِينَ وَعِبَادُ اللَّهِ الْعَارِفِينَ وَعِبَادِ اللَّهِ الْعَارِفِينَ. And of the knowing servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what they used to do. They weren't just selfish during this night. They used to pray for the Muslimin. In fact, the dua mentioned, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, the hadith mentions, if you pray for the Muslimin, if you pray for others, your own dua will be accepted. Some even go to the fact that as many as you pray for, that's how much more your reward is. So if you pray for all the Muslimin of the world, then you're just increasing your chances. Because our ummah, though we are individually in front of Allah, but in this world we are together as an ummah, and the greatness of any other part of the ummah is the greatness of ourselves. Look how we're suffering today because of the ummah suffering in different places. We may not be suffering as much in terms of material availability of goods and so on. But look how we are suffering when we hear about our brother. Doesn't it make you cry? Doesn't it make you feel sorry for them? Doesn't it make you thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what He's given us? But doesn't it make us concerned? So we need to pray for these things. So now, to just get into some practical aspects in our busy lifestyle. As I said, the main thing that's mentioning all the virtues. I mean, we have to start off by invoking from the Quran and the Sunnah, because that's what is the basis of all information and knowledge that we have about these things. Right? Now we try to just fit this into our schedules. So those of us who are able to take 10 days off and go and sit in i'tikaf, then that is what you should be doing. Because you are then consecrating yourself for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's sake for that many nights. Now for the sisters, masjids won't allow you in there because generally the i'tikaf of women is in the house. How do you do this? You generally, the idea of this is to designate the normal prayer area that you use. I mean, you must have a favorite spot for prayer in your house, right? I mean, generally all women do that. I mean, people have a favorite spot for prayer. They just feel better in that area. Now, if it's a nice small room, then that entire small room can be dedicated and consecrated as your musalla, as your masjid. So you can't go out of the bounds of that. All your i'tikaf rulings will apply in there. Right? If it's a much larger room, like a big family room, then you can't designate all of that and then be going around and, in that. You have to designate an area, a suitable area where you can sleep, sit, and eat and so on the side. Of course, if there's nobody to bring your food, then you can actually go to the kitchen to get your food, to quickly prepare food and get it. And that's allowed. That's even allowed for men. If they can't have food in the masjid, somebody bring it to them, then they have to go outside to find food. But you go to the closest possible place, you eat, and you come back, or you bring it back and you eat here. That's what you have to do. Right? So that's the general rulings. Now, if you cannot do i'tikaf, then I would suggest that we all do at least 2 nights of i'tikaf in the Ramadan. That's, from Friday Maghrib time to Sunday Maghrib time. Because i'tikafs, they run in 24-hour shifts, kind of, rather than 24 hours from sunset to sunset. So you get into i'tikaf from the end of Asr time, before the Maghrib. As soon as you break your fast, you're in i'tikaf. Because in this i'tikaf, you should also be fasting, and you're going to be fasting anyway. It's Ramadan, right? This will be a nafil i'tikaf. You'll be intending nafil. So you'll then spend your night in as much worship as possible, spend some time sleeping in the daytime, then get up and carry on. The main thing during i'tikaf is that this is not a time to meet with the other people who are there in the masjid. Unfortunately, many of our i'tikafs, especially the big ones, unless they're very, very strongly disciplined, like the one in Leicester, for example, right? They get a bit out of hand because you have so many people, and people get a bit bored, or they get there and then they realize how tough it is. They start feeling homesick, right? Because unfortunately, this is our reality. You start feeling homesick, right? Because we're so attached to our possessions that when you're in the masjid, you've only got a little bag of stuff, and you do get a bit attached, so you start feeling a bit lonely, and then you want to speak to someone. But that's not why you're here for. You're supposed to come here to speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at least the 2 nights, let's do it for 2 nights. If not, then at least 1 night. So even the sisters, dedicate a night or 2 nights in your house where you can do that. Organize it with the rest of the family, right? And mashallah, say, I will make lots of dua for you. Right? I'm going to do i'tikaf, and I'm going to make lots of dua for all of you, so you can serve me my food and everything like that as well. And inshallah, it's incentivized, right, for everything. But the main thing is that these last nights is our final opportunity. That's the most important thing. It's our final opportunity. It's the last run. Just to give you an idea, that there was a brother that I know who was involved in a sin. Try as he might, he couldn't get out of it. Try as he might, he couldn't get out of it. But this one Ramadan, he just really said, that's it. He felt for his sins. He felt bad. Like he really magnified them in his mind that, no, I must stop this. And when you do that in your mind and you call on to Allah to help you, the help will be coming, because your heart is broken. You're thinking, I am shackled to the ground. I can't prosper. I can't progress. I am shackled by these vices. Have I been shackled with the shackles of deprivation? Is Allah unhappy with me? Has He forsaken me? is the question. So he really felt for it. Now, you can only get tawbah, proper repentance, and stop what we're doing by this kind of an idea. Because if we don't magnify our sin in our minds, the shaitan makes it sound insignificant in our minds. And thus we just carry on doing them. So the idea is to magnify them so badly in our mind that we feel that we need help and assistance and we need to get out of them. So this person tried very hard during that Ramadan, and then he said, mashallah, he developed such an immunity that for about 7 months afterwards, he didn't even feel like doing that sin. It wasn't like he felt like doing it, but he had to withhold himself. He didn't even feel like. He got immunity. He wouldn't even catch a cold. You know, if you take your vitamin C's and all these other herbal things and keep fit and so on, then inshallah, hopefully your hay fever, your allergies, whatever, you know, they'll disappear, or you'll get them less than if you're very prone to them. How do you immunize yourself? So Ramadan is the time to immunize yourself. It really works. Ramadan and Hajj. These are the two times, because here you've got the time and the place, and in Hajj you've got the same kind of barakat and mercy that's coming down. You have to take advantage of the environment during this time. And the excuse from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whoever wants I'll give. Then he said after 7 months he started losing that immunity and he started feeling the pressures. He said then after 2 years or so he did it again. He messed up the previous year, but he did it again. And he went into i'tikaf this time and he really prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he said this time it worked for 9 months for me. And then he said then I started losing that immunity, but then I managed to pull myself through by thinking I've only got 2 months left. 9, 10, 11, and then it's Ramadan. If I can take it to Ramadan, I would have had a sin-free year. That's a massive achievement. That's why I believe Ramadan is for that. It's for gaining that taqwa, and that taqwa is that immunity. So that you don't even feel like doing things afterwards. But think, what are the wrong things I'm doing? Because if we don't even think what we're doing is wrong, and that's why one of our du'as is, oh Allah, forgive us those sins that have become part of our life that we don't even think they're wrong anymore. We've justified it in our mind. Some person justified it for us. They're the most critical, because we don't even think they're wrong. That's really bad ignorance, compound ignorance. So that's what we want to do during this time of Ramadan. Now, when a person is working, what I believe is, if you have a goal in mind of what you want to do and finish in Ramadan, then you will be able to spend your time much better. You won't waste any time. If it's like, okay, I'll just do this, I'll do a bit of Quran here, I'll do a bit of, there's no focus of how much Quran you're going to do, how many nawafil you're going to do, how many qadar prayers you're going to make up, then you're not going to end up getting, because we're just generally naturally lazy. But you know, if you have in your mind that I want to finish 2 Qurans this Ramadan, if that's big for you, always aim higher, then you will find every time you have, if you're at work between patients, right, or during your lunch break, or during other times when you could just go out on social, you'll just grab your Quran, pick up your phone, whatever it is, put your Quran on and read, right? If you've got a goal, you'll do that. If you don't have a goal, you're going to think, well, okay, I'll read a bit, I've read enough, you know, that's the kind of thought. But I want to finish 2 Qurans, okay, I've got 3 left, I've got, you know, this much left, I've got this much left. That's what we need to give yourself. If you don't have a goal yet, give yourself a goal. You already know how much you think you can do. Make your goal a bit longer than that, a bit bigger than that, and then after that, see that it doesn't help you. It's a challenge for yourself. We have to remove the sloth. We have to be active in this regard. So again, we're going into the last 10 days. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make them more fruitful, more beneficial than all the 20 days before it. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really immunize us during this time from all the wrongs that basically the challenges that we have. And may Allah give a blessing to the ummah. We make a short dua inshallah, and then I'm going to take your questions inshallah. I'm sorry? اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. اللهم يا حي يا قيوم برحمتك نستغيث. اللهم يا حنان يا منان لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إنا كنا من الظالمين. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا Muhammad وعلى آل سيدنا Muhammad وبارك وسلم. Oh Allah, we ask you for your mercy. Oh Allah, we ask you for your forgiveness. Oh Allah, cause your forgiveness to descend upon us. Oh Allah, this month is a month of mercy. Oh Allah, these nights are nights of mercy. These days are days of mercy. Oh Allah, we want to be completely infused and drenched in this mercy. Oh Allah, we want your forgiveness. Oh Allah, soften our hearts. Oh Allah, grant us an excuse to be forgiven. Oh Allah, we ask that you assist us and help us in this regard. Oh Allah, grant us goals and ambitions that benefit us in the hereafter. Oh Allah, the same effort that we place behind our occupations, behind our work. Oh Allah, all of these things, oh Allah, we ask that you give us a similar diligence when it comes to our faith. Oh Allah, this is a month in which you take even the greatest sinners and you grant them some of the greatest rewards if they give you an excuse. Oh Allah, we are also in that boat. Oh Allah, we also ask you to also turn your attention to us. Oh Allah, remove the shackles of deprivation from us. Oh Allah, remove the bonds of slavery to others in this month from us. Oh Allah, we only want to be your slave. Oh Allah, we only want to be your slaves. Oh Allah, we ask you for your gentleness, your clemency. Oh Allah, your forgiving and your forbearance. Oh Allah, we ask you forgiveness from all of the sins that we have committed in the openness of day and the darknesses of the night. Oh Allah, we ask you forgiveness from all of those sins that we remember. Oh Allah, those that we did enjoy. Oh Allah, we ask you that you take this enjoyment away from us. Oh Allah, that you make your disobedience hated in our hearts. Oh Allah, that you make these things totally distant from us. You immunize us against them. Oh Allah, we ask that you make this easy for us. Oh Allah, how long are we going to struggle with our faith? Oh Allah, we've been struggling against the shaitan. Oh Allah, we want you to take care of him for us. Oh Allah, that you suffice us from him. Oh Allah, when little children, when they learn how to walk and they start walking, then after they get tired of walking, they tell their parents to pick them up. And the father or mother picks that child up lovingly. Oh Allah, we are also now tired of fighting against the shaitan. Oh Allah, how long are we going to continue with this? We make tawbah in the night and we fail in the morning. We make tawbah in the morning and we fail at night. Oh Allah, we ask that you suffice us from the shaitan and you pick us up and you carry us. Oh Allah, we ask you to preserve our Iman. Our Iman is our most preserved asset, is our most precious asset. Oh Allah, day by day there are so many people out there who are losing their faith, who are born even in Muslim households, and they are losing their faith. Oh Allah, there are many challenges and narratives out there. Oh Allah, we ask that you make this Ramadan a month of mercy for all of us. And oh Allah, preserve our faith. Oh Allah, help us and help the entire Muslim Ummah. Oh Allah, protect us from what the ignorant among us do, from what the extreme among us do. Oh Allah, we ask that you give us the ability to really express our faith in a way that people really understand the beauty of it. We ask that you make us true believers, true manifestations of the prophetic beauty. Oh Allah, we ask you to make us true manifestations of the prophetic beauty so that people can turn to Islam just by seeing us. Oh Allah, we ask you help for the entire Muslim Ummah to remove their subjugation, to remove their oppression. Oh Allah, help us and assist us. This Ramadan, we ask that you make it better than any Ramadan before it. Oh Allah, this Ramadan, make it more potent and more beneficial to us than any Ramadan before it. Oh Allah, allow us many more Ramadans. But oh Allah, allow us after every Ramadan to be better than we were before that Ramadan. Oh Allah, so when we come to meet you, we have much to show, and that you want to meet us, and we want to meet you. Oh Allah, make the best of our life the final part of our life. Make the best part of our deeds the final deeds. And oh Allah, make the best of our days the day that we stand in front of you. Oh Allah, bless all of those who are here listening. Oh Allah, who are attending. Oh Allah, grant them all of their permissible needs. Oh Allah, grant them success in their work and in their endeavors. And oh Allah, grant them sufficiency with the halal against the haram. And oh Allah, make them only indebted to you. O Allah, make them independent of all else. O Allah, grant us barakah in what you have given us. O Allah, grant us barakah and blessing in what you have given us. And O Allah, bless us in these remaining nights and days of Ramadan, and make it further facilitate ease for us and worship for us during this time. O Allah, we ask you finally to send your abundant blessings on our messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and grant us his company in the hereafter. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillah. Okay, inshallah, we're going to take the questions now. Feel free to start sending your questions. I can't seem to see any questions. Has nobody typed one, or is it just me? I can't see it. Sorry? No, that's attendee list. Yeah, it might be in chat, yeah. Oh yeah, here you go. Let me magnify this. Can you do i'tikaf for a few hours, or does it only have to be for a few days? Okay, that's a good question. So the first question we have is, can you do i'tikaf just for a few hours or a few moments? So yeah, we have a few different types of i'tikaf. The first one is the sunnah i'tikaf, which is for the entire last 10 days, from the 21st night, which is the maghrib of the 20th day, until Eid strikes. Right? That one's a sunnah i'tikaf. So you'll get the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. However, anything less than that, anything less than that is a nafil i'tikaf, and that can be for a few minutes as well. In fact, when you go into the masjid, then you should intend i'tikaf, so you get an extra reward for doing that. But of course, if you're going in there with a proper intention for i'tikaf for the one night, that's fine. For a few hours, that's also fine. So if you want to just spend some nights, like the odd nights in the masjid, that's completely fine. You can do i'tikaf in those nights in the masjid, you'll get an extra reward. Is it necessary to sleep before tahajjud? It's not necessary to sleep, though, especially in those nights where you want to spend the entire night. It's not necessary to sleep. On a normal night, you know, to make it a moderate lifestyle that we have, and we don't go into excess, because, you know, there were some Sahaba who came to the Prophet ﷺ and said that we're going to pray the entire night and not sleep. And the Prophet ﷺ says, no, you don't. I sleep as well. And the Prophet ﷺ used to sleep. So that's why it's better to do that. But I would like to mention, on a normal day as well, if you are unable to wake up before at tahajjud time, then at least do tahajjud before you go to sleep, as like the last thing that you do, or even after Isha. At least it will count towards tahajjud with that intention. It's not going to be the same as the other tahajjud, but it is tahajjud at the end of the day. But on these main nights, you don't have to sleep. So it's a fallacy to believe you must sleep. It's just better to sleep. But on the nights when you want to stay awake the entire night, it's a special night, then no, you don't need to sleep before then. What is ihtisab? Ihtisab comes from the word hisab. So hisab means accounting, reckoning. So essentially it's a calculation you're doing. I'm doing this for this purpose, right? You know, a calculation you're doing. And essentially here, why are you fasting? Why are you standing in prayer? You could have multiple reasons. And I believe that's why the Prophet ﷺ kept it general, ihtisaban, as a nakira, as a non-common term, right? As a common term. The reason is that you can think everything you want. Oh Allah, I want your satisfaction. I want you to be happy with me. Oh Allah, I want your reward. I want Jannah from you. So whatever calculation you want to make, again, is open. That's the Sharia. That's the way it does things. Open it up to you. That's why it's not thawaban, ajran, or something like this, like only for reward. But it's whatever you want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm doing this because I want your mercy. I want this because I want you to make me one of your awliya, one of your close ones, your friends. Uh, Mufti Sahib, have you a formula to connect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a spiritual level? Oh, mashallah, from Dr. Weiss. All right. Um, the general formula that we mentioned for connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on an ongoing basis, regular basis, is very simple. 100 istighfar in the morning and 100 in the evening. This takes away the sins that we've done since the previous time. That's, you can understand that, right? Then, since we've purified ourselves now using the istighfar, astaghfirullah, seeking forgiveness, then we want to invoke some blessings. We want to be blessed, adorned. So you do salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam 100 times morning, 100 times evening. So now, alhamdulillah, you got a lot going for you. And then some tilawah of the Quran, because that brings the light into the eyes, the light of the heart, the removal of cares. Is huge barakat and blessings. It's our lifeline. So you read some Quran, even if it's a few pages. Outside in Ramadan, you must increase. Because Ramadan is the month of the Quran, you must increase, right? And then after that, you spend a few moments thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in meditation. He is just you and Allah, right? Generally, we should be doing this in salat, but unfortunately, our salats aren't to that level, right? So we just sit down and we just do a muraqabah, a meditation. And the other thing is, you just think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as possible throughout the day. Just try to think, what does Allah want me to do in this day? By reading the masnoon du'as, learning them, it will get us focused. Inshallah, this is empirical. If you do this properly for 3 months, you'll be sorted. And remember, all of these things, they need to be brought into the lifestyle. They have to be forced into it in the beginning for you then to be able to continue. Because it's very difficult otherwise. Yourself is going to protest. All the other competing activities of the day are going to protest. So now the way to bring it in is to have so much discipline that for approximately 30 to 40 days, over a month, because generally 40 days is a maturity period, right? It's a maturity period, right? It's just if you do something for that long, then it will become part of your life and accepted. Then after that, you'll actually feel bad if you don't do it. You'll feel something is missing because now your body has accepted it, right? It's like, organ and a kidney, they just get rejected. But once it gets working, then inshallah your body accepts it, right? So our entire day-to-day activities are very competitive. They don't want anything, especially if it's to do with Allah, because they don't see any benefit. There's nothing in the nafs for that. If you're going to eat something, you're going to go out to eat, you're going to go and get a better job or whatever, the nafs has something to do with that. And that's why it helps and it's encouraging. That's why you can waste time on YouTube. You can waste time with the movie. You can waste time talking to others because the nafs loves it. But you can't waste time doing ibadah because the nafs hates it, so it protests. That's why we need to force, and Ramadan's the best time to put that routine in, because we're subjugating the nafs. Because of the fasting, we're depriving it of food, drink and intercourse for a number of hours during the day. So that's why it's going to be very beneficial that we can suppress it from other harams and wrongs as well. What should we do if we were given a gift of Israeli dates by another Muslim? You should go and educate him. Right? You should educate them that, look, these are not the right brands that you should have. And I mean, the dates are halal to eat once you got them. You don't want to waste them, I would think. I mean, at the end of the day. But the whole point is you want to boycott those companies. You want to hit them financially. That's the whole point of it. They're not haram dates as such. Hopefully, right? Hopefully, inshallah. Just give them to somebody else. Don't tell them put them in a clear plastic and give them to somebody else. Right? Give them to your neighbors. Give them to your neighbors. There are times when we make tawbah and then unfortunately do the same thing again and again despite best intentions. What can we do so that it does not count as defiance if we fail again and again? As long as you are sincere each time that I don't want to do it again, even though you think you're going to do it again tomorrow, but you don't want to at that moment in time. It's the presence of the mind that consciously I don't want to do it again. Not that, no, I would love to do it again. I don't want to do it again. This is bad. Then the tawbah is accepted. And do that as many times as you can. Inshallah, don't ever give up, because you don't know if the next time you do that inshallah, will be the last time. You just have to hope. But again, as I said, the best thing is to develop the immunity by your Ramadan and through Hajj and Umrah and things like this. It's developing an immunity helps a lot. Any other questions? So if anybody has questions here, please feel free to ask now. Does anybody have any questions here? Okay, Jazakallah khair. Sisters, have any questions? Yeah, just send it through. Are you sending a question? Or? Yeah. Yeah, you're going to have fluctuations even in the days of Ramadan. It's not going to be the same. Some days you're going to feel really exhilarated and you're going to feel really like doing a lot of worship. But on other days you're going to be tired and you're going to feel some lassitude and you're not going to feel like doing stuff. That's why I mentioned that what helps in this regard is that if you have a goal in mind, right? You know, as busy as you are, if you have a goal in mind, you will use every moment that you have to get to that goal. Because it's just like trying to cram in something at that time. That helps a lot. When you have a goal to drive you, it gets you over those low periods. There are going to be low periods. It's a fact of life. Don't be depressed by low periods, essentially. I mean, if that's, you know, that's very important to understand. Don't be depressed by low periods. They happen. We're a human being. Humans, we go through various different situations. That's why the Sahaba, when one of them did not feel the same way as he used to feel with the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't feel the same way outside. He thought he had become a hypocrite because he's lost that state of mind. But the Prophet ﷺ said, no, if you were at that high level all the time, then you would not be, you know, angels would be shaking your hands. So it's just worldly. It's just the way we are in the world that we go through these different phases. It's about how to manage those phases. That's the main thing. It's about man. The first thing is to not be depressed about these things and use some motivation to get ourselves up. I mean, look at mothers. Learn from mothers. Mothers, you think they like every morning to get up to take their children to school and to make breakfast for them and everything? I'm sure they don't love that job each time, right? But there's a way that they do this. They drive themselves. May Allah bless them for it. But you know what I mean? They drive themselves. I mean, even men, I mean, do you feel like going to work every day? What drives you? I'm going to lose my job. You know, I need to make the money. So at the end of the day, some days you wake up, hey, I want to go to job. And other days, man, I'd rather sleep in. But it's the same kind of thing. This is just human nature. Okay, we got another question here. What if two sisters do i'tikaf in a house and there is no one else for food arrangements? How should food arrangements be made? Well, they can either get lots of stuff prepared, because you don't want to be wasting too much time cooking food and smelling like food either, right? So what you might want to do is just cook a lot of food and just put it away. And then after that, just you can warm that food up. It's fine. You can go to prepare food. It doesn't mean that you can only go out to eat. You have to prepare the food. So you prepare the food quickly and just minimize it by the preparation earlier on. That's the main thing. One day one person can prepare the food, the other day the other person can prepare the food. Just try to minimize other activities and maximize the spiritual activities. Jazakallahu khairan. There's one more question. Is it necessary to have a sleep before tahajjud? I can't see another question. Oh, sorry. You know what? There's loads of questions. Subhanallah. Sorry about this. I just it wouldn't go up itself. So I thought we were. Sorry about this. All right, let's go through these quickly. If you have done Taraweeh, could you do Tahajjud again? Yes, Taraweeh and Tahajjud are two different prayers. Taraweeh is specifically an extra prayer the Prophet ﷺ did in Ramadan. 2 days he did it. He would do it in his room. Then for about 2 days, the Sahaba insisted that they pray with him, so he prayed with them. And then the third day, he didn't come out. And towards the end of the night, then he came out and he said, the reason I didn't come out is because I didn't want it to be made obligatory upon you. But then after that, Aisha radiallahu anha says that the Prophet ﷺ for her qiyamul layl, for his qiyamul layl, he would the tahajjud, he would never do more than 8 rakats. So qiyamul layl, tahajjud, qiyamul layl can be called, both of those things can be qiyamul layl. Qiyamul layl just means to stand up at night and pray, right? But tahajjud is a separate prayer according to the ulama of the ummah to Taraweeh. So Taraweeh and then you do tahajjud prayer. Tahajjud is always 8 rakats, right? I mean, you can do just 2 if you want to, but generally it's the sunnah is 8. And isn't the same thing qiyam as Prophet ﷺ using it? Sorry, no. So I've already explained that. Using it during i'tikaf, are you allowed to ring home for necessary purposes to deal with the finance? Yes, you can. It's not like haram to speak about the dunya. It's not haram to have any other worldly activity. It's just that while you're there, you want to maximize the time. But if there's something that has to be taken care of, there is a financial issue or something else, then yes, you can call home. You can have a quick chat. It's allowed. If you can chat to somebody else in the masjid, why can't you use the phone to chat to somebody at home in that sense? But it's not something you want to do if there's no need for it. Once you made intention for sunnah i'tikaf and entered into it, what are the obligations of it? What can you break i'tikaf? Okay, so if you do enter sunnah i'tikaf for 10 nights and then somehow it broke, you walked out of the masjid by mistake, right? Or you broke it, then in that case it will become a nafal i'tikaf because sunnah can only be for the 10 days. And then for that day that was broken, either you broke it or it broke, you have to do 1 day of qada. So you can either do it in Ramadan or outside of Ramadan. So for example, let's say you went in and on the 4th day or the 5th day you broke it. Now on one of the subsequent days, preferably in Ramadan, you just go for 1 more day again, because the qada has to be with a fast. If you're going to do it outside the month of Ramadan, you have to fast on that day as well. But you can actually do it in Ramadan. So you only have to do 1 qada. So although it's like a package of 10, if you break it, it becomes individual days. So only 1 day is considered to be broken as such. All the others were fine. But they are nafil and not sunnah anymore. The package was sunnah of 10. Are there any known sunnah specifics to i'tikaf? The main thing is, the main sunnah is just to satisfy your Lord somehow. That's the objective. And thus, it's the night prayers, right? I mean, those are the main things. The night prayers are the main things, and then your tilawah of the Quran. What is the best form of istighfar that is also going to be manageable? That's up to you really, because for some people, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah is more than they can handle. Astaghfirullah Rabbi min kulli dhanbin wa atubu ilayh is another wonderful one. There's also the Sayyidul Istighfar, right? Where is that? Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant khalaqtani wa ana abduka wa ana ala ahdika wa wa'dika mastata'at, and so on. So it just depends on what you think you can manage. Just do something. That's the main thing. Start off with the small one, go bigger, or try to go with the bigger one and see if you can't handle and go down, right? It depends on how your psyche works. What was the dua that our beloved Prophet ﷺ taught Aisha radiallahu anha? Allahumma innaka afuun kareemun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Inshallah, maybe we can type that out and send it out to everybody. I'll see if I can send it to Bima and they can send it out to anybody, or put it up on a website, right? Inshallah. We'll actually put this lecture up and then have it on ZamZam Academy, and we can actually put the du'as underneath. In a few days it'll be up there, inshallah. What are the masnoon du'as? Oh, sorry, masnoon means sunnah, that which has been taken as a sunnah. So the sunnah du'as, prophetic du'as, basically. Du'as before, what did the Prophet read before eating, before drinking, before walking out of the house, before after entering the house, and so on. These are basically the prophetic du'as, essentially. I know this webinar was aimed at professionals, but I would also like to know how a mum with toddler, young children, can maximize benefit from the last 10 days. The children tend to interrupt and want constant attention. If left with toys and books, then they turn the house upside down. I mean, I don't understand why there's any contradiction here, to be honest, because a professional can also be a mother, right? It's going to be a bit more tough, but you can have a professional mother as well, right? Let's not make them mutually exclusive things, that you are either a mother or a professional, right? I think that's very disparaging, actually. Right? There are professionals who are, mashallah, professional. They work part-time, but they also look after their children, right? Alhamdulillah. So don't feel bad about this, right? Your question is absolutely appropriate. You just have to do your best. You remember that you just have to try to talk to other mothers to see how they can keep their children calm and occupied. I mean, you don't want to put them in front of cartoons in the month of Ramadan, especially, right? So you want to make them do things. Maybe get together with other such mothers and see if you can have like a play scheme or something like that, where one mother can teach them something about Ramadan or something like that, and then you get time to do your worship, right? And so on. But at the end of it, understand that your intention will count, as long as you are trying your best, because your primary responsibility are the children. And don't think that that is any less than anything else. Allah will give you the reward for what you're missing in terms of your worship, as long as you would have worshipped if it wasn't for the children. Just try to catch naps, get the husband to help you, especially on weekends. You look after the children. Let me do a bit of worship right now as well, right? All of these things are things that you can do. Even on, I mean, since the topic is women now, I mean, even on the days that they can't pray, right? You can't read Quran because in menstruation you can't read Quran. Then in that case, get some collections of du'as like Al-Hizb Al-A'zam. Get the copy of Al-Hizb Al-A'zam, Dalail Al-Khairat, other books, and read them. Read all of those du'as, because you can't read Quran, but you can read du'as. So occupy yourself doing something. Again, have a regimen for yourself. If you don't have a regimen, then you won't end up doing anything. Oh, there's no end to the questions now. SubhanAllah, I don't know what I was doing. It's fasting, yeah. I know the dua the Prophet told Prophet Aisha, then I explained that one again. Allahumma innaka afuun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anni. Sorry, I thought I'd use the audio facility to word the question better and perhaps make a response to your answer if needed. But I don't think the hands up. Oh, sorry. That's. We can pray witr by yourself in Ramadan at the end of reading tahajjud. Yes, you can. Though it's superior for men who are praying in the masjid to do it jama'ah for Ramadan only, the witr. But if it's a woman, for example, or you missed it in salat, then yes, you can do it after tahajjud. Otherwise, it's better to do it in the jama'ah. My question concerns usage of time in Ramadan for, how do you say that? Clinicians or clinic. Is that how you say it? Right? I have many colleagues who actually increase their clinic hours in Ramadan. Some of them say that it helps them get through the long fast, but others say that they do all of this with the intention of helping humanity. I see, mashallah. From my understanding, Ramadan is a time to work less. Something of the Quran. Yuzadu fihi rizq, yes. Mu'min, even letting go of certain religious endeavors to concentrate more on valuable things, even if it means to losing pay. So in summary, I suppose, yes. Question is that is working well. A very good question. That's coming from somebody in the field. Look, this, you see, shaitan is going to, when shaitan doesn't win, right, by making us stop good deeds, and we want to do good deeds, then he's going to make us do the lesser good deeds over the more beneficial good deeds. Remember that as a ploy of the shaitan. So essentially what we're saying here is that it would be wrong in Ramadan to sacrifice the time of your individual worship to say that I'm going to just help more people. Go and help more people outside the month of Ramadan. But in Ramadan, your personal worship and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is superior. Right? Of course, there's an emergency, it's a different story. Right? Like after the catastrophes, after the the attacks, right? That's understandable. But on a normal basis, you should be decreasing your work and increasing your worship. Now, justifying that work as helping people is just an excuse. It's rewarding, but it's an excuse to get away from the greater worship. Remember, shaitan always, this is what the ulama mentioned, shaitan will try to get you involved in a lower worship because a higher worship is going to be more potent for you. How can the sisters get the most from Laylatul Qadr if they're on their period? Again, the same thing. You can't read Quran, you can't read Salat, but you can do du'as. You can cry your heart out. You can sit and do Durood Sharif, Salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. You can, what else can you do? Right? There's loads of du'as and adhkar, and sit down and just meditate. Just spend your time. Right? And say to Allah, if it wasn't for this situation, I would have been standing in prayer for you. And you'll get the reward for that prayer. That's the beauty of the individual's intention when he would have done the action otherwise. Some people are very busy helping the community, example as MPs, and their family has to sacrifice a lot because of this. How to convince them Islamically to have a better balance? I think that might be beyond the scope of this talk. I think we just need to have a good chat with them, right? Because look, MP it's an important job, an MP, as long as they're just not career oriented, as long as they've got really concern for people in their mind. That's what people say about Jeremy Corbyn, that he's actually a concerned individual. He's not just a career politician as all of these other idiots are, right? That's the benefit of it, right? You actually see it when it comes through. You may disagree with things about him, but at the end of the day, that really is what people like. Right? And when you cut through all of the media trash and everything, this is what people see. Otherwise, this is what the media puts out there, right? To cover all that up. So likewise with the politician, it's the same thing, and they need to, somebody has to talk to them and have a counseling. I mean, because if we get in any activity, in any occupation, if you go overboard, then it has the possibility of going into excess. Anything, even good things go into excess, right? Honey is good for you, but you have too much of it, you got a problem. I've seen people who got diabetes and they're having 3-4 spoons of honey in their tea. It's honey, shifa'un linnas. The shifa'un linnas is at a certain proportion. It is assumed, right? You have a whole bowl of honey, and that's why they say that you shouldn't give less than 1-year-old children honey because it's too heavy on their stomach. We used to do that before we knew, and they used to get stomach aches. Yes, it's shifa, but in a certain context. Our shaitan's not chained in Ramadan. Yes, shaitans are chained in Ramadan, but our nafs is still around, unfortunately. Our habit still kicks in. So though there's no shaitan, but our habit still will kick in. Can you just repeat what the best acts are to perform during i'tikaf? I would say one of the biggest things you can do during that time is try to get all of your qadha prayers out of the way. If you've got missed prayers, make a calculation and spend that time doing your qadha prayers. And then sit down, get a book of du'as, read that. Sit down, make a list of your own du'as you want to make for yourself and your family, make those du'as. Do some salawat on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, read a lot of Quran, and do some extra nawafil. These are a number of things. What Ibn Ata'illah says, that Allah has made the various ways of obedience and deeds in a variety, because He knows that humans will get bored of a single kind of deed. So when you get bored of making salat, then go and sit and read some Quran. When you get bored of doing that and weary of doing that, go and do something else. So shaitans are chained up, as I mentioned, but the habit still kicks in. And can i'tikaf be as small as from Maghrib to Isha? Yes, it can. Can women recite Quran during periods? Not according to the majority opinion among the 4 madhabs. I believe maybe I think there's a rukhsa in the Maliki school only, right? But according to the Hanafis, and I believe the Shafi'is as well, and probably the Hanbalis as well, it cannot be done. But in the Malikis, they're allowed to do it. So that's why you do something else, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you. Jazakallah khairan, mashallah. I thought you guys were all dead, no questions. I was just sitting there staring at the scene for a while, but mashallah, that was a nice collection of questions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to be a source of awareness and benefit for all of us. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Hopefully we'll see you sometime in the future, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.